Welcome to episode 44 of Rebirth Revolution. My name is Melissa Olson. Here we are, halfway through 2020. Man, it's been a rough ride. We have endured more in 6 months than we had in the previous 6 years. It has been grueling, relentless, and a test of everything you once thought you understood about your life and the people in it and the world at large. The rebirth process is surging, and there is no sign of it letting up. The old ways are blowing up, and the new ways are in the process of being imagined. Everything that we thought we wanted is being reassessed, and our priorities are being rearranged. At the beginning of the year, I suggested making a vision board to help focus on what you wanted as a way to set your priorities for the coming year. I did just that. I made my first vision board. It had flowers and beautiful words and elevating concepts. It held wishes for family gatherings and travel and personal success. It held feelings that I aspire to, such as feeling nothing but love and compassion for myself and others. 3 months into the year, I covered most of what was on the board with paper that had the following 3 words in bold block print: survive the pandemic. Talk about clarity. So at the mid-year mark, I have revisited the vision board and realized that I was thinking way too small. Maybe that is one of the many gifts that we are receiving during these troubling times. Big problems force you into thinking bigger. It occurred to me that most of what was on the board was written from the perspective of what would benefit me and my life. It wasn't a board that was covered with mansions, yachts, and chandeliers. It was a board that was about feelings and experiences. But why was I thinking that I could only wish those things for myself? In the system, you can pray for what you want, and you can pray for what others want. You just can't pray for what others don't want. You cannot impose your vision on what is best for a person on someone who doesn't want the same thing. You cannot negate the free will of others. So here's what I'm working on now. I'm making a vision board for the remainder of this year that will support my highest ideals and those held by some other people, and ideals that will make a segment of the population furious. I'm okay with that. My vision board is now filled with concepts and actions that I want for the world. I used to want clarity for myself. I now want clarity for everyone who has that same wish. I used to want strength for myself. I now want strength for everyone who needs it. The wishes that may not sit well with some others are things like reimagining everything and dismantling all the systems that lock us into a place that no longer works, like racism and the patriarchy. I wish to apply concepts like strength and clarity to the problems we face, the problems in which we are all participants. The original wishes, like family gatherings and travel, will have to wait. And I've adjusted to that. I don't get those wishes right now. I have bigger things to do. The pandemic is still going on. Not that you would know that from looking at many people's social media postings from the 4th of July weekend. There are over 133,000 people who have died from the virus, and the numbers keep climbing. There was a large local gathering where most of the participants didn't wear masks. One person in the group said, quote, "I'm not seeing all the masks, and it finally feels like America again. The country really seemed like hell in a handbag for a minute there," unquote. Where do you even begin with a statement like that? What it told me is that the masks, to some people, are not a device that will keep things from going horribly wrong. They are the symbol to them of a problem that they would rather not deal with. It speaks to a certain type of privilege of someone who doesn't have to see those in the hospitals, in the morgues, or hasn't yet gone to a Zoom funeral. It shows the level of maturity you see in a toddler who plugs their ears and says la 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 when an adult is saying something they don't want to hear. At the current rate of infection, the experts are saying that it will become even more horrific in the fall, which is when they want kids to go back to school without having any plan to keep them safe. But the mask battles continue. People are ready to physically fight you about masks. They have chosen this as the hill they will die on. And there is no information you can give them that will allow them to release that sense of bravado they feel in being the contrarian. If you didn't believe the science, but were a person who was working at a higher level of spiritual awareness, you would put a mask on anyway. Simply because you have empathy for other people, you would not want to scare people who need a mask to keep themselves or their loved ones safe. The fact that these maskless warriors are amped up for an argument or purposefully getting close to other people and coughing tells you everything you need to know about their current level of awareness. These are cruel and sadistic people. That is who you are when you are at the low levels. When you are working from a low level, you cannot see or feel anything that does not affect you personally, which is why low-level people cannot acknowledge either COVID-19 or racism. If it doesn't happen directly to them, they will fight you to the death, proclaiming that it isn't happening to anyone. Do not let the fact that the president of this country has abandoned all efforts to contain and control the virus discourage you from doing what you know is right. Don't let the karma he is creating for himself with his cruel and cowardly choices be yours too. We have talked and talked and talked about people who are working at the lowest levels of spiritual awareness. We have compassion for them because we know that they are in the beginning stages of becoming complete and whole spiritually. We have compassion because we know they have very far to go before they reach completion, or in essence, earn their master's degree. We have compassion because we know that the odyssey ahead of them will be full of heartache and loss, and that they will experience all the fallout of the choices they make that are steeped in darkness instead of light. We know that they are going to make choices that yield results that they could not yet anticipate. At the lower levels, a person is not able to take in the full scope of life with all the angles that need to be taken into account. If a low-level person can become rich, famous, have more power, or have a greater potential for using others to fulfill their lust, that is the choice they will make. They are slaves to the 7 deadly sins. Their thinking is at a level where they think that fulfilling one of those desires will make them feel good about themselves, make others envy them, and undo any nagging feeling they have of being inadequate and unloved. Like if you told a man that there was a mine that contained diamonds and that they could go into that mine and get the diamonds, but in doing so the mine would surely collapse and kill all the people who lived there, along with causing massive damage to the land, they would rush right in and get the diamonds. People at the lowest levels can only take themselves and what they want into account. They are not capable of factoring in or caring about collateral damage. They don't have that scope of understanding yet. So they go about their lives making one mess after another while they learn their lessons the hard way. The average low-level person will introduce pain and chaos into the lives of those closest to them. So we know this is how it has to go for the low level among us. They live messy lives that are difficult to understand, frustrating to witness, and infuriating when their effects spill out into our lives. This is exactly why we must never let low-level people have power. We know that every choice our low-level president makes will result in karma, like the choice to accuse people who are from other countries of being disease carriers who must be kept out, while choosing to willfully mismanage our piece of the global pandemic to the point that other countries will not let our citizens in because we are the carriers of the uncontrolled disease. This is pretty classic karma. You display a gap in awareness, and then you must learn what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that treatment. But it doesn't just affect him and a few of his friends. It affects everyone in our country. The immoral and unethical choices he made prior to being elected made him an easy target for control and manipulation by our enemies, which doesn't just affect him, it affects us all. We are having to watch a man make low-level choices and then deal with the natural consequences attached to those choices every single day. It's exhausting. We are all hit by the shrapnel as he learns his lessons or doesn't learn his lessons. The entire country is having to participate in paying his karmic debts. The choices we make about who gets to do what in our society must be rooted in fully vetting the character of each person involved. Power doesn't magically have the effect of turning a low-level person into a high-level person. It just gives them a larger arena in which to make ill-advised choices. When low-level people do not have power, the repercussions of their acts are limited to a handful of people. When they have power, the repercussions affect us all. One of the discussions that is going on right now is about who really loves this country. Anyone who points out a problem is considered by some to be a person who does not love this country, which is usually followed up with a suggestion that they leave. But is pointing out an issue an expression of hatred? Pretending everything is perfect is never an act of love. Turning a blind eye to the gaps in awareness is not an act of love. All through our time here, we must struggle with the pull between wishing everything would stay the exact same versus the pull we have to mix it up. The truth is, you can either be perfect or you can grow. These are your two choices. Obviously, we are not perfect. Perfection is always an illusion, but buying into that illusion gives you cover for not getting better, not growing. When we love a person, we stay engaged and continue to offer input that will help them understand and grow. That is an essential part of loving someone. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The moment when we no longer love a person, we cannot be bothered with them or their growth. We're out. When you love someone, you want the very best for them. You want them to reach their full potential. So it is with our communities and our country. If you love this country and the ideals on which it was based, then you will stay engaged and want it to get better. This love and concern is for the entire experience, including the massive gaps in awareness that existed when our Constitution was authored, all the way up to now, when we are still dealing with the repercussions of those gaps. Loving a country requires that we never become indifferent. It means that we must stay engaged and continue to foster its growth so it may reach its fullest potential. That is love. Thanks for listening to Rebirth Revolution. Your time is valuable, and I appreciate you spending some of it with me. Let me know if you have any questions. Email rebirthrev@gmail.com or leave a comment on rebirthrevolution.com. Until next week, seek justice for Breonna Taylor and Elijah McClain. Create something. Watch something that renews your faith in mankind, like the new season of Queer Eye or Say I Do, and wear your mask. Remember, you are loved exactly as much as every other person on the planet, not 1 ounce more or 1 ounce less. Stay open and humble and safe.